Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. All right, episode 66 of Coach Bennett's podcast. That's right, 66. Wow. It seems like it was only yesterday we were talking about episode 50, and that was a big deal. And now we're 16 episodes beyond that. That's right, quick math. I can do it. Kind of the best at little simple math. Anyway. Point is, this is going to be a really fun episode, and the reason why we're even here is because of all of you. Because you listen, and you share the show, and you rate it, and you review it, and you do all this cool stuff, and I love the fact that you send in letters and reach out, and listen, we're here because of all of you. So thank you right off the bat. And this is going to be a great episode, because the topic's a great topic. It's one that we need to talk about. Crappy runs, bad runs, how to deal with them. Because I'll tell you what, if you run, you're going to have some crappy runs. You're going to have some bad runs. You're going to have some runs that suck. And it doesn't matter how great you are as a runner. And it doesn't even matter how you measure greatness as a runner. It could be how consistent you are. It could be how far you can run. It could be how fast you can run. The metrics don't matter. You can measure your success as a runner any way you want. You're still going to have some bad runs. That's it. That's just how it works. And you don't need to feel weird about it. You know, you don't need to be embarrassed about it. You definitely don't need to be ashamed about having some bad runs or bad races. It happens. They happen. They will continue to happen. Okay? And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to deal with crappy runs. Success. Success. That's right. We're talking about how to find success when we're having bad and crappy runs. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I just want to talk about what I just watched. Okay, so I just watched Karsten Warholm and Mondo Duplantis. So Karsten is, the world record holder in the 400 hurdles, and Mondo Duplantis is the men's world record holder in the pole vault, and they're good friends, and they've been talking trash to each other for years about who would win in a 100-meter dash. Okay, so neither of them raced the 100. Okay, like I said, Karsten Warholm is a 400-meter hurdler and one of the greatest in history, okay? And then you've got Mondo Duplantis, who's the world record holder in the pole vault and is the greatest in history, and they're talking about who would win in a 100. Now, this is one of those things that happens in sports, where you hear, two great athletes kind of that are buddies or maybe not buddies, and they're talking trash to each other about, well, I could beat you in this, and I don't think you could beat me. And the other one says, I would beat you. And they kind of pick kind of a neutral event, right? And it's been one of those things that every year bubbles up and people ask about them, like, who do you think would win? Karsten, he says, of course I would win. And who do you think would win? Mondo. And Mondo says, of course I would win. But guess what? They just raced. They did. They just raced. It was like this big event put on by Red Bull, and they lined up in the 100, and they raced. So you have to realize how crazy it is that this happened. Their season's not done yet. They've got another big meet tomorrow. But it happened the day before the big meet in a stadium. They brought some fans in. Red Bull put it on. It was a lot of fun. And if you don't want to know who won because you want to go check it out, now's a good time to pause because I'm about to tell you who won. So I'll give you like 5 seconds to just press pause, okay? And if not, then I'm just going to tell you who won. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mondo Duplantis won, and he ran 10.37 in the 100-meter dash. Just stop for a minute and think about that. He doesn't train for the 100. In fact, his runway that he takes advantage of in the pole vault is like half the distance of the 100-meter dash. He probably runs like 50, 55 meters, I'm guessing. It's just ridiculous. And then Charleston Warholm, the 400 hurdles is a brutal event. It takes not just crazy speed, it takes crazy endurance to run that fast and be hurdling. It's really, really hard. Really, really hard. I mean, these two athletes are supremely talented in their events. So to then meet in the 100, it's just crazy. So anyway, I don't know what Carlson's time was. I'm guessing it was probably like a 10:47, probably, which also is wild. I mean, they don't race that way. It's totally different. And a lot of people think the 100 is just like gun goes off and you sprint. That's not the way it works. First of all, you got to get in blocks. Getting out of blocks is really hard. I mean, getting into the blocks is hard. Getting out of the blocks is really hard. The tendency is when people get into blocks for the first time and they try to get out, they just pop straight up, which is a momentum killer. Okay, so one, you got to know how to get in and out of the blocks. Then there's a series of things that happen over the course of a 100-meter dash about how you want to get your feet down, but you don't want to start too fast, because if you start too fast, you're going to stumble. And if you stumble, you lose momentum. You lose speed. You lose power. You don't want to come straight up. So it's a beautiful thing to watch, a really great 100 meters, especially in slow motion, because you can see all these different segments. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit too out of control about this. The point is, it was really cool because it almost never happens when you've got two great athletes talking trash to each other in a good way and then saying, well, let's just meet in a neutral event. And they did it. So you should look it up if you haven't already, because some of you might have paused, checked it out, and then watched. But yeah, so I had heard that Mondo Duplantis was really fast. I just didn't realize he was that fast. I mean, 10.37 not training for the 100 is wild. Wild. But he went to LSU for a little while. He was known as being really fast. But anyway, really cool. A lot of fun. And yeah, you should check it out. Yeah, so that's what I just watched about an hour ago. And now we're doing this. Episode 66. So let's get right into it, shall we? Let's do it. All right. I kind of talked about it already briefly, about how to deal with crappy runs. And the first thing I brought up is, well, it is reality. You're going to have crappy runs. I think that's important, though, to say again and again, because as athletes, we forget that we're going to have crappy runs. We do. We just think especially as you're training for something. This happens a lot. The training starts, you go through kind of those early runs where things aren't going so great because you're either coming from a place of maybe you had been sick, you had been hurt, or you had taken some time off. But there's an understanding early on, these runs aren't so good. But then there's progression, okay? There's betterment. And you start to get into a rhythm where the runs are easily looked at as successful because you're increasing the minutes or the meters, the pace. All of these things are happening incrementally, especially early on in a training cycle, early on in your introduction to the sport, really, okay? These things just naturally happen. You get fitter. But every time you get a little fitter, it gets a little harder to get a little bit more fitter. So then we hit this period where suddenly the progression isn't as quick. The increments of improvement aren't as big, okay? And we start to question, where's the improvement? Now, right around this time is when you have a crappy run every once in a while. Now, this is the thing. Like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, sometimes you're just going to have a crappy run. And I'll tell you what, sometimes I can't explain why. I don't know. Sometimes I can't find a reason. We'll sit down and we'll talk, because that's one of the first things I'll do with an athlete is be like, well, let's talk about why. Let's figure out why. Why did you have a crappy run? And we'll go through, kind of the greatest hits. Well, are you still tired from the last workout? Because sometimes you haven't recovered as quickly as we thought you were going to from a previous workout, okay? That's a possibility. And then we're just going to keep going through those greatest hits. You know the greatest hits. Did you have a terrible night of sleep? Are you dehydrated? Did you miss a meal? Was there something stressful going on in your life, at home, at work, at school? These are the things that you would normally talk about because all of those things are going to have some kind of an effect on your run or your running. It might not even be today's run. It may be tomorrow's run, or a run 2 or 3 days from now, or a week from now. The point is, there's a lot of opportunities for us to try to figure out, to kind of Sherlock Holmes our way to, why did you feel crappy on the run? Why did the run suck, right? So that's a conversation that a lot of athletes don't have. They don't dig deep. They're very superficial. You may be one of those superficial athletes, okay? And I think you know what I mean. You finish a run, it doesn't go well, and your response is, I suck, or I'm out of shape, or I'm soft, or I'm weak, and there is no digging at all. You've got a shovel. You have a mental and emotional shovel that you can do some digging. All you got to do is be willing to ask some questions and answer them honestly. So, post-crap run, or even during a crap run, just have the conversation. What's going on? Why do I think I feel like this? Because here's the thing. You may come up with the answer. And I'll tell you what that's going to do. It's going to relax you. It's going to give you context for why you're feeling the way you're feeling, or this run is going the way it's going, right? And that's huge. That's awesome. But here's the thing. It may not be anything other than something totally obvious, too. It may not be anything that involves a shovel. You may just need to open your eyes and realize, oh, it's really, really sunny and hot and humid, and that's why I feel crappy. Or I'm running into the wind, and it's a very strong wind. It's incredibly cold. I'm on vacation. I'm not used to this humidity. Or, wow, I forgot that, I travel to Albuquerque, and we're at like 7,000 or 8,000 feet, and I live at sea level, and this is causing issues. I've been there. The point is, have the conversation. Try to figure out why the run is crappy, why the run sucks. But I'll also tell you this. Sometimes there's not an answer. Sometimes you just have a crappy run. Sometimes you just have a crappy workout. Sometimes you just have a crappy race. It happens. It just happens. Now, this is what's interesting about other sports. Like, let's use basketball as an example. I love basketball, college basketball, pro basketball. You pick your team, okay, or pick your athlete. Go through the WNBA. They got a 40-game regular season. The NBA has an 82-game regular season. You go through some stats, okay? You go through like game logs. You're going to see some crap games, okay? Now, they may shoot 1 for 12 in this game and have, 6 turnovers and foul out and have 1 assist and 2 rebounds, and it's a terrible game. I mean, an awful game, and there may be a reason for it. There may not be. Just stuff wasn't working today. The shot was off. The rhythm was off. And then there's another game. Do you think game 24 is having a major impact on game 25? Probably not. You start getting into a period of 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 games in a row. Yeah, maybe we're starting to think something might be up. But one off game? No. With us as athletes, as runners, we are hypersensitive to bad runs, bad races. We think it's like the end of times. So I guess my point is just to give a little bit of levity here and a little reality check. Runners can be way too hard on themselves, okay? So my just original point here, if it's even an original point, I think I'm using the wrong terminology here. The first point I'm trying to make, although at this point maybe I've tried to make 10. Anyway, point is just take the time during a bad run or after a crappy run to ask, why do you think it was? What do you think was going on? That's all I'm saying, because the reality is you're going to have them. That's just the way it is. You're going to have them, all right? So the other thing is, now, the tangential benefit to having this conversation of why, beyond, giving yourself some relief, physical, emotional, mental, mindful relief that, oh, I did sleep horrendously yesterday or 2 nights ago. Oh, I have been carrying a lot of stress with me. Oh, it was really, really cold and windy today. Okay, outside of that, you also are learning. Wow. Isn't that cool? I mean, think about it. When you ask a question, you should learn something. in response, right? I mean, that's how it is. We forget sometimes that learning is involved when questions are being asked, which is why I don't understand why coaches hate answering questions, okay? Like maybe your athletes are thirsting for knowledge. Why would you get upset if they're asking you questions? What's the problem? So you're hopefully learning something, which is huge. So if you have a run that sucks, use it as an impetus to learn about the sport and about you. Oh, this is how my body responds to a long, stressful day at work. Okay, that's really good knowledge because a couple things can happen here. If you've got a big workout, let's say after work, and work's getting stressful, maybe you work on dealing with that stress better. Or maybe you've learned, I've got to adjust when I'm doing this workout because this workout is not going to be as beneficial as it's supposed to be. In fact, it may be a negative if I actually try to do this workout after a stressful day of work. You've learned. And by learning, you've become not just a better athlete, but a better coach for yourself. So don't think that crap runs and sucky runs are useless. They're not. They're absolutely useful. I'll just sneak something in here. I've mentioned it before on some podcasts. As a coach, I look at your worst runs as the best and most truthful pieces of evidence of progression. What do I mean by that? Well, if you tell me you had a bad run today, and I say, tell me about it, and you say, well, I ran 5K, and it took me 36 minutes, and I go, all right, just pump the brakes here. What was bad about it? I felt sluggish the whole time. I felt like I was losing focus and confidence, and I beat myself up emotionally on it, and it's just, I don't know what's going on because a couple days ago I did 6K at a pace that was faster than this. And I say, all right, just stop. Let's just rewind 4 weeks ago. All right. You couldn't run 2K at this pace. So your best run would have been 3,000 meters less at a slower pace. Now we're 4 weeks down the road and you're calling a bad run a run that's 3K longer and faster than a run from a month ago. That's progression. When your worst runs are suddenly better than your previous best runs from a month ago, we're kicking butt. So sometimes you can look for proof of progression and proof of success, success, in those runs that suck. Just wanted to say that, all right? So there are learnings there and sometimes evidence of really great progression. The other thing that crappy runs and runs that suck allow is adjustments on the run. They really are telling you, hey, let's make some adjustments. Now listen, not all crappy runs mean you're running slow. You can be running your normal pace and it just feels terrible. You can be running your normal pace and be losing focus. You can be running a slightly better pace and you can feel sluggish. All of these things do not revolve around just the numbers, okay? So that's the other thing. A run that sucks does not have to be a run that's not far or not fast on, the way you're measuring what a fast or far run is. It can be a whole host of different things. I've been on runs that have sucked where the mileage and the pace are fine. The issue is I was bored the entire time. I had a miserable time because one of my metrics for a successful SUCCESSFUL run is I want to enjoy the run. Okay? So if I don't enjoy the run sucked. Yeah, it was a quality from a physical standpoint, a high quality run. But the run sucked. I had no fun. I was bored the whole time. I just wanted to end it. So you can think about, okay, what adjustments could I have made? Maybe I could have split that run into 2 runs because it was just too long today and my mind was not ready to run as far as that. Maybe I picked a route that was really, really, really boring. Maybe I could have mixed things up because I was getting so bored by the run. I could have taken some interesting turns, some new trails. You know what I mean? I mean, there's different things that maybe I could do by an adjustment that would have changed the run. Maybe the run still would have sucked. It just wouldn't have sucked that much, which, by the way, means it was a better run. Semantics, baby, but they're important. You know what I mean? You can say, yeah, it sucked less or it was better. I mean, you decide how you want to do it. If you're like, big on the negativity thing, then just say it sucked less. But if you want to go positive, just say it was better, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's also the goal of practice. I have people that tell me all the time that they suck at running. And I go, I believe you. And then they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, this is a relationship. Relationships are built on trust. If you tell me you suck at running, I'm going to believe you. I have to trust you. Now, it doesn't affect the way I'm going to coach you. The goal is still the same. I want you to leave here better. You would call that sucking less. Fine. Okay, maybe if we work together for a while, you'll start changing the way that you refer to yourself. Okay? I mean, who knows? But anyway, that's the point. These bad runs, these crappy runs, these runs that suck are opportunities for you to learn how to adjust, to improve. What can you do so the run sucks less, right? Is it get into the shade, find a trail? Is it run with some people? Like, what can you do on the run to make the run suck less? Is it back off the pace? Is it pick up the pace? Is it fix your form? Is it change your attitude a little bit? Is it deal with some of the, self-defeatist attitude that you've got, or some of the berating that's occurring in your head from you? What can you do to make the run suck less? There's an opportunity on runs that suck for you to practice how to get better. Right? Great. Okay, next. Understand, this is a concept here, and it involves you understanding and knowing you as an athlete, but understand the difference between crap runs and overtraining. This is important because a lot of times people can dig themselves into a hole. Remember when I said you have that shovel? That emotional shovel that you had? Well, you can do a lot of damage with that shovel too. You can do some good things, but you can do some damage too. You can dig yourself into a hole. You can misinterpret a series of bad runs as just bad runs when really what it is overtraining. You're running too much. You're running too hard. The intensity is too high. And by the way, the intensity can be, emotional, mindful intensity, and it can be physical intensity. There are a lot of things that you can do to burn yourself out. And what can happen is we don't take these red flags the right way. Now, on the flip side, you can think you're overtraining when really you're just tired. You're tired. You could be tired from life, and it's showing up in your running, and you think, I'm overtraining. And no, it's not. You're not overtraining. You're just really tired. And sometimes the purpose of the training is for you to be tired, and sometimes tired consistently. So you really have to take the time, which is why I say get a running log and write in your running log. Take the time to pay attention to yourself, pay attention to your running, write about it, and learn from every run you do so you can figure out, is this overtraining or is this just a couple of bad runs in a row? That's really important, okay? Now, hopefully through this, what you've kind of pulled out, which I think is the most important part, is that even on a run that sucks, you can find success, SUCKCESS. You can find success on a run that sucks. It is not a zero-sum game. You can go on a run and you can find success. And sometimes that success is getting through a run that sucks. Sometimes the success is stopping a run from sucking anymore by either making an adjustment or stopping the run. Sometimes the success is dealing with a run that's sluggish or boring in a better, more positive way. Sometimes when things aren't going right and maybe you're not able to do the things that you were able to do just a day ago or 2 days ago, you're a great teammate to yourself and not a teammate that sucks. There is success to be found in every run. Sometimes it's success and sometimes it's suckcess. And I realize they sound the exact same, and without me saying SUCCESS, and one is SUCKCESS. Anyway, the point is, you know what I'm saying. There is success to be found. And I think this is really important right now for a couple of different reasons. Well, it's really important at every time of the year. But one of the reasons why I'm doing it now is because I'm getting lots of people that are hitting little bitty hiccups and sometimes kind of sort of barriers and sometimes some hurdles in their training for their fall racing or in their kind of fitness journey. There's a lot of reasons for it. I think personally it's September. You have people going back to school. You may be going back to school as a student. You may be going back to school as a sibling. You may be going back to school in terms of being a parent or as a teacher or someone who works in the school system. The traffic is suddenly greater. Anyway, this time of year, every time we kind of shift from one season to another, this one seems to be a little bit more impactful, I think, because of all of the movement and how people's lives change as we go from summer into fall and school and all that stuff. But I think what happens is people don't give themselves the grace that they need to have at this moment because of all of these shifts and these changes that are happening in their lives, and they think that they can keep going with the same type of energy, and really it's not even the same type of energy, with the same amount of energy that they had 2 weeks ago, when they don't realize you're expending way more energy now because of all these things that are happening in your life, which means you're going to be fatigued, which means you're going to be tired, which means you're going to find periods of lower motivation, lack of inspiration, and as a result, you have to make adjustments. You have to take that into account. You have to anticipate this. But if you're not doing any of those things, you just think something's wrong. And usually you think something's wrong with you. And then you think, well, what's wrong with me is I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not tough enough. I'm going to beat myself up. Those are all the worst things you can possibly do. Because now you're just pounding on someone who's already weak. And that usually ends with the person just weaker. So the reason why I'm bringing this up now, today, here, is because so many of you need to hear this. And this is in no particular order. I'm just going to start numbering things. You know, you do that. You don't even have an order. You're like, 1, and you don't know how long this list is going to go. Anyway, 1, you're going to have crappy runs every once in a while. That's just the way it is. Doesn't matter how good you are. You're going to have crappy runs every once in a while. 2, ask yourself why. Every time you ask a question, you should learn something. What are you learning when you ask why? What was it about the run or the runner that you think played a part in this being a crappy run? Also, be open to there not being an answer. That's okay. Sometimes it's just a fluke. It's a weird day. You just didn't have a good run. Be okay with moving on from that. Just like you don't change everything in your running life because you had one good unexpected run, you shouldn't change everything about your running and how you view yourself as a runner because you had one unexpected bad run, okay? The other thing is, hopefully you're learning from all of this, and you're learning how to become a better coach, learning how to become a better athlete, learning how to make adjustments, learning how to maneuver through a crappy run, and try to figure out on a crappy run how you can make it less crappy, how you can make a run that sucks suck less. That should give you a little energy out there that you have some control. And like I said, sometimes the run's going to suck no matter what. The key is, though, could you have done something, or did you do something that made it suck less, right? Hopefully you didn't do anything to make it suck more, but hopefully you did something that made it suck less, all right? Also, keep writing in those running logs, because if you keep writing in those running logs, you're going to keep learning about yourself, okay? And if you keep learning about yourself, you're going to be learning these small little differences that become big problems sometimes between overtraining and bad runs, overtraining and crappy runs, overtraining and sucky runs, okay? It's really important. Every run is an opportunity to learn about yourself. And then lastly, learn how to find success in a run that sucks. Yes, you can. It's there. Always. There's something to learn or celebrate, even in those runs that suck. Okay? So, that's episode 66. Okay? I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time. I gotta be honest. And I think it's going to help. And I think you should share it with people that are maybe struggling a little bit. Maybe are having a run or some runs that suck and are starting to let runs that suck lead them to believe that they suck. Well, you don't. If you're going out there and running and trying your best, you do not suck. It's not possible. I'm sorry, it's not. I've been around the block a whole bunch of times. I know these things. You should trust me. You can't suck when you try your best. Period. And yes, you can try your best on a run that sucks. You can try your best to do your best on a run that sucks. And if you do that, like I said, the run may suck, but the runner does not. That's what I got to say. All right. There we go. That was the episode 66. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a subscriber or a follower of the podcast. Please, if you're listening and you're not already a subscriber or a follower to the podcast on whatever platform that you're listening to it, please do. Please follow. Please subscribe. Please leave a rating on whatever platform that is there, whether it's a thumbs up or a 5-star. If you have the ability to leave a review, I would greatly appreciate that too. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll read some reviews, just as like a thank you to the people that left some reviews. I've got some really nice reviews from what seem to be really nice people. So maybe I'll do that in some of the future episodes, right? All right. So until the next time, which will be episode 67. Woo, baby. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. And I'll meet you on the next starting line. Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you're not already following or subscribed to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening, well, I really wish you would because it helps a lot. Also, check out the show notes because you'll find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter, as well as all the social media sites that I'm on. Places like Threads and Facebook and Instagram and Mastodon and YouTube, and even the artist formerly known as Twitter, whatever that dumpster fire is called today. You'll find a link to it because I'm on there. Thank you so much again for listening, and until next time, take care of yourself.